Hello, guys. I'm Ethan Woodworth, and I'm back again with the Stoic Sapling podcast. This, I think, is going to be episode 9. And once again, I do not know what I'm titling this one. I just cut a take before this because I was going to say the name out loud, and I figured out I don't have a name. So here I am. I want to find a title that reaches like a broad audience every time, and that like everybody would enjoy, because the viewership needs to improve. And in order to do that, I gotta have titles that speak to everyone, but it's tough to find that. So I'm gonna think, after I shoot this, I'm gonna think and try to find a title that will be pleasing to all audiences out there. But today, the quick rundown of what we're going to talk about, what I'm going to talk about, I would say it's just stuff that I think is important to take into 2022. 2021 is nearing the end, and I think a lot of these things I want to talk about today and just kind of get in people's heads are good to come fresh for a whole new year of possibilities, year of new goals, whatever. So just listening to this, because it's going to be coming out on January 1st, I'm hoping that all my listeners can take something away and move forward and improve their 2022 in some sort of way from my podcast. That would be the ultimate goal, if there was one, for this. I want to start with this Reddit post. I bring up Reddit on here a lot because that's where a lot of my thoughts come from. You know, I preach that I'm not on social media, blah, blah, blah. I'm usually not on social media, but when I am, it's Reddit, and I'm on these weird threads. If you know anything about Reddit, there's a lot of small sub-communities of just a lot of niche topics. You know, if you like Asians that enjoy peanut butter sandwiches, and you like pictures of Asians that are eating peanut butter sandwiches, you can find it on Reddit. And my thing on Reddit is I like nerd stuff. I like Lord of the Rings. I like Star Wars. I like Harry Potter. And those are the communities that I join, and I love reading about. And Dune as well, another fiction series. Overall, I'm just a geek. Most people wouldn't assume it, but I really am. I like reading all sorts of fiction series, and those are just a few of my favorites. And I love reading about what people have to say about those fiction series on Reddit, because there's some really smart and interesting people on there that like to give their takes on different things. And I came across one that was on the Dune Reddit page. And before I jump into what this guy had to say about Dune, I want to say I'm not some literature genius. I don't know all the implications and insights you can find from a piece of literature. I have taken one literature course in high school, and I have taken a composition writing class. I am by no means educated enough to decipher all the things inside complex fiction series like Dune and like Lord of the Rings. There's a lot more to them that I haven't even thought about, I haven't even grasped, I haven't even studied enough. So this is just one thing that I'm kind of stealing from this Reddit post, and I'm gonna share with you guys. And I do this quite often, you know, I take things from the internet and I just kind of reinterpret them and share them on here. But I was thinking that's kind of all information. At some level, you're going to get it from somewhere else, and you're going to repeat it in your own words and kind of make it your own. I would like to, you know, make my own inferences and decipher it myself. I think that'd be a lot more authentic and a lot cooler. But maybe I'm just not there intellectually yet, and I got to give it some more thought. So I'll just be kind of reiterating what this Reddit post had to say. The point of this post was to compare the lenses that both Dune and Lord of the Rings are written in. So Frank Herbert was the writer of Dune, and he writes Dune in a classical lens. And I guess this classical lens is kind of how he views his world inside Dune. He creates all the things inside Dune, all the characters, all the worlds, all the depictions of nature with this lens of the classical lens. And within this, his world is kind of just raw, and it's classical. It's like how real world is. Nature is unforgiving. and it's cold. It's not fantasized and romanticized as much as Lord of the Rings would be. And this is specifically seen with his characters. They're very complex. They don't have just like, they're not an all happy character or an all bad character. They're super complex. They have very different goals and ambitions that change who they are. They have very different goals for the ecology of the lands, because ecology is a very big subsection of Dune. They have different political aspirations. They have different religious aspirations. And all these create characters that are super, super complex. And that's what makes the world of Dune just very authentic, and it feels like its own land. Not saying that Lord of the Rings doesn't, but I think Dune does this on a whole different level because of the classical lens. And it's just cold, and it feels like the real world. It feels like people are at each other's throats, and these people that you're reading about on the pages could literally just pop up right in front of you. That's how real it feels when you're reading them, and how they mimic maybe your own thought process, because you're like, damn, dude, how could someone write a character that thinks in this way? Because it thinks like me, and I'm a real person. So Frank Herbert did a hell of a job getting his characters fleshed out, and it's all through this classical lens. So there's political sections of each realm of Dune. And for example, House Atreides is one of the subsections. And not everybody in the House Atreides gets along. You know, there's inner conflict, there's turmoil, different things that go wrong for each character. I guess this is kind of different than Lord of the Rings, and you look at there's the Shire and where the hobbits live, and the hobbits are all just in constant harmony, and they're all just kind of loving and compassionate to each other. You know, there's a little bit of conflict, but nothing serious. At the end of the day, it's like, we're all hobbits, we all love each other. It just feels like a fantasy world, the way the Shire is developed and talked about, versus House Atreides. House Atreides feels like the real world. The Shire feels like fantasy land. And I think that's why sometimes I reside with that fantasy land in Lord of the Rings, is because of how it's talked about. It takes a way more ideal view of the world, way more romanticized, the way it talks about how the flowers develop and blossom, and it just feels like you're literally on heaven in some of these scenes. It acts kind of like a celebration of life, just everything around. And I think this is true particularly in the movies. It does romanticize things in the book, specifically, again, the Shire and where the hobbits live, but the movies really do a great job of giving the scenes the vibrancy that Tolkien wrote about, and making it seem like these elf lands are literally heaven. And there's a little less nuance in each of the characters. You have the evil person in Lord of the Rings, which is Sauron, and Sauron's like the bad guy, the big bad. But the thing about Sauron is, like, you don't see his motivations, and there's no change in his thought process. Like, he just really wants to take over the world and be evil. It's like the classical just bad archetype. There's no nuance to it. It's just simple, man. Sauron, bad. These guys, Gandalf and co. with the hobbits, Frodo, Samwise, good. It's not that simple, but it's a lot less played out than Dune, where there's so much going on with the ecology, the politics, the religion. And those are kind of the key differences I see between Dune and Lord of the Rings. So seeing these differences, I hope people don't think I'm trying to make just a nerd scene, how cool this is, these differences between Dune and Lord of the Rings. Personally, I think it's pretty cool, but obviously people that aren't into that stuff, you can still find it cool, is what I'm going to try to prove here with the implications of this. So once again, we have Dune, realistic, classical, nature is unforgiving, cold. Lord of the Rings, different landscape, kind of just good versus bad. I'm simplifying this completely. It isn't this simple, but if you had to just take it for what it is, I would say on a broad landscape, this holds true. So taking these two contrasts, into the real world, I think some people take this Lord of the Rings type vision. Not saying there's anything wrong with it on a writing level, but maybe on a personal level and just looking at your future. If you take this romanticized version, there could be some issues. And I see this many times with just how people talk and how people aim towards their future. It's not real. They're living in fantasy land. And that's kind of what I took from this excerpt I read on Reddit. I was like, oh damn, you can kind of see that in real life with some people and how they view just the world around them. And I wrote a few examples here. I think one specific example I'll give is the medical world. I talk about medicine often on here. And I guess maybe that's because I think it's a noble aim. I talk about noble aims as well. And helping people, saving people with your hands is awesome. And there's really nothing better you can do besides save people with your hands. I think many aspiring doctors have romanticized, this is from what I've read, the doctor world before they get there. And they think that it's all going to be just amazing. They're going to be constantly saving people. And the landscape in which they're working in, the actual hospital, the actual place is going to just take care of them and their patients at all time. They're going to allow them to kind of freewheel and truly save these patients. But I think that's where you can kind of see more and more doctors are going to private practice. And some of this may have to do with the underlying system that is not part of this romanticized culture. And a lot of doctors do not realize what they're getting into with the American healthcare system. And I'm not on here to rip on the American healthcare system at all. There's definitely issues with it, but I'm not trying to just say all doctors should go to private practice. I'm just saying some doctors are going to private practice because they have realized, no, I don't like what the American healthcare system is doing, and I don't want to be under that umbrella anymore. I kind of want to be on my own, doing my own thing, be my own boss. And that's kind of the realization that you get from actually being there and not romanticizing the hell out of your occupation and what you're going to be doing, and just being honest with yourself, being brutal, and saying at the end of the day, yeah, I feel comfortable being more on my own. Now that's kind of a small and weaker example, but it holds true. And once you get to that occupation, once you get to that job, once you start doing the thing that you want to do, you realize some things, and it's not romanticized anymore. I kind of felt that on a very small level with my marathon. I ran a marathon November 6th, and you romanticize the hell out of it. When you're not training and just kind of sitting on your ass, you're like, wow, imagine how awesome that'll be once you cross the finish line, how accomplished you'll feel, and just how amazing that moment will be. And that held somewhat true. I crossed the finish line, and it was cool, but it's not all you make up because your body feels like shit. And me personally, I'm already thinking about the next competition. I just crossed the finish line, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, it's over. Like, that's it. I don't feel like I just solved the world's issues. All this romanticizing and all this this ideal vision of just becoming like the pinnacle of existence, this like God complex, once I get the marathon done, just didn't really occur. And I'm still the same guy I was yesterday. And I guess that's just kind of me being arrogant and stupid, but at the same time, it holds true. And the romanticizing I didn't do anything. And I'm thinking to the next marathon, the next competition, whatever I'm going to do next. And that's just kind of how my brain works. And it's tough to get out of that cycle and actually enjoy what you have just done. So that's kind of a different example, but you can still see how that holds true. Another example I'll give here of this kind of dichotomy is the military. And I think this one's an even better one because it just relates directly. Everybody sees the commercials. Everybody hears about it, like serve your country. It's noble. It's awesome. It's the best thing you can do. And yeah, like that's great. We would not be here if the greatest generation. World War II vets. They didn't step up. They didn't go do their thing. And that's I think personally, the greatest generation, because they stepped up and literally, heroically, possibly saved the world. Probably did save the world. Not save the world, but save the world from a regime and different powers that would have corrupted the entire world. So, yeah, not downplaying any of that. Like, it is awesome. But then nowadays, you kind of begin to ask yourself, specifically nowadays and post-Vietnam, in Vietnam, you ask yourself, does America's Department of Defense really have their best interest for me? Or at the end of the day, am I just another number to them that they can exploit? And that sort of thinking has continuously become more and more talked about. And that kind of comes from that romanticized nature. Many of these younger kids don't realize what they're getting into. And the underlying system that they're working for, the Department of Defense, some of them are kind of fooled thinking that this is the best thing I can be doing right now. This is the most noble thing I can be doing. But then you think and you sit down, you're like, okay, I'm going to be fighting in conflicts that supposedly are the most important. Post 9/11, it's the most important conflict we've forgotten. We got to fight terrorism. We got to end it. And then 20 years later, then no, the script changes. No, this doesn't matter anymore. All the sacrifices that we made, all of it, nope, we're gone. We're pulling all of our troops. It's over. And then Taliban retakes whatever, and all the progress that we've just made the last 20 years goes to shit, and supposedly all the work and sacrifices that you military members have made aren't worth it anymore. And we just have changed our vision, we've changed our ideas, and now we're going to attack something else. And specifically that, I wasn't getting political there. I'm just saying that the whole industry of the military, just it's a bit shady, and they can they can just kind of use you and churn you in whatever way. And not saying that you can't have a great impact in the military, because you can and probably will if you aim high and do the right things. But at the end of the day, you're still probably going to be working for a industry that doesn't really have your back, that doesn't really care if you're wounded, killed in action, blown apart. You're just another number, and once you medically retire, it doesn't matter anymore. They don't care about you. You're going to get your little check every single month, but other than that, it's kind of over. It's done. There's nothing more to it. And that's why I think the military is the biggest one. That's, you got to watch out for that romanticism, and you've got to see beyond the scope of serve your country, blah blah blah, and just kind of see into that. And that thinking may complicate your decision a bit more, but that's the good thing. You should give thought to big decisions like that, especially joining the military. You got to know what you're getting into, and you got to be enlightened upon the reality of America and the reality of the industries that you're going to be working for. So that's kind of how I took this Lord of the Rings versus Dune and saw those two scopes and just kind of applied it to the real world. One of them with doctoring and a lot of people joining private practices because of the American healthcare industry, not ripping on it. And another one is the military because of the Department of Defense and underlying military organizations, not ripping on them either, just kind of throwing it out there. Two of them that really kind of maybe get romanticized, but then you got to look deeper and look into it, and you'll become more educated. I'm also not trying to say Dune is better than Lord of the Rings. I do suggest that everybody watches and reads both of these because they are awesome. They have taught me some of the best lessons. I reflect on them quite a bit. I just recently did a Lord of the Rings rewatch. I do have The Return of the King to finish, but that's kind of my December winterish rewatch is always Lord of the Rings. I'm going to jump into this section I wrote here called 2022 and Beyond. It's just going to be kind of a quick section of just something that I think you should take into 2022, that you should hear on January 1st when this is posted, and take it forward with you. And this is it's basic knowledge. I drop a lot of basic knowledge on here. I don't get too deep, but this is, I think, seriously something that could turn your life around a little bit. And this is just taking the necessary steps that are correct. And what I mean by this is, seriously, like, do a deep dive on how you're acting on a day-to-day basis. Every single second, just look and to see how you feel after said action. And if you do not feel good, if you know that an action is not right, stop, take it out. Do not do it anymore. And most people can't even take the first step of just kind of zooming out and even seeing the actions that they're doing from an objective point of view. But taking that view and then just taking out the shit that is not right and you should not be doing. And this message is specifically to the younger generations that I know are watching this. And the first one I want to say is just vaping. Vaping. Everybody vapes. It's all around me, and I see it every day, and it pisses me off exponentially. I think it's the stupidest thing ever. But I get it. I've started to get it a bit more, because you are actually dependent on a substance and you cannot get off of it. And I, for one, have realized that I could be there right with you. I'm not above anybody mentally. I could just as easily get addicted to nicotine and just as easily go out there and spend $40 on a new vape every single 2 weeks. But I don't. And I think everybody has the capacity to move beyond that and ease off the nicotine. And once you do that, you will save money, first of all. Not many people have enough money at this age to even consistently do this kind of stuff, and it hurts the pockets because you're paying a lot of money for the juice, for the vape, whatever. And it'll also, more than likely, I'm not some scientist, but it may save your lungs, and not save them like you're going to die in 2 years, but maybe instead of dying at 77 from some shitty lung failure, cancer, whatever, you'll die at 88, and you'll live in 11 more strong years and actually get to see maybe your new granddaughter. So next time you go to hit the vape, just think, man, I can see my granddaughter. I can live 11 more strong years. So don't vape. Just, what's wrong. Ease off of it. And do that with other actions in your life. Another big one, man, pornography. It ruins some mindsets. It ruins people. Don't even fall trap to it. Get it out of your life. Don't do it. It's a catalyst for bad habits. It's a catalyst for taking bad roads, and you're going to start viewing people and relationships, women, men, in a different light that just isn't authentic from pornography. So those two, I would just say, scrap. Don't even need them, man. 2022, you are moving past both of those. And another one I would just say is be honest. In every action you take, just be honest. Don't lie. Express yourself in an authentic way. And this one's huge for me because I fall victim to this one a lot. Be kind to the people around you, and don't act a fool. And just having the discipline to do this is a lot easier said than done. But if you're just a good dude and you cut out the shit that is wrong, you act in a way that is right, your life will turn around. And I hear Jordan Peterson talk about this. I like a lot of his work, and those are just the first steps to really improving yourself and just exploding as a person. And you ultimately can't do that. There are so many barriers to being the person you want to be, and many of these will be directly taken out once you take this step back and take out the things that are wrong. The vaping, pornography, treating people that you think are lesser than you badly. Just taking some of those steps out, even I have felt exponentially better by taking steps like that out. And people around you recognize it. I'll be honest. once you take those steps and do the right thing, people are going to take notice, and you're going to have an impact on the people around you, because they'll pick up on your new habits. They'll pick up on the way you're acting. And that's just kind of the first step to leadership, is just being the example, setting the example for others. You won't need to preach any of it, because you'll just be literally doing it, and it'll rub off on all those around you. I will always advocate the discipline path, because this path will lead just to more opportunities, healthier relationships, just literally a better life. And this discipline path comes back to everything I just said, taking out the shitty things you do on a day-to-day basis. That's literally what it comes down to, and just being the best person you can be. And that's what I want everybody to carry into 2022, is just taking those steps out and taking this path that is the righteous path, and possibly seeing the impacts that come from this. Jump into the last little section and story I have here. It's just a little insight I've reached recently. So I've been walking my dog a lot recently, and she's pretty young. Let's see here. 6 months. She's 6 months oldish. Got her around July. Her name's Vera, and I've enjoyed walking her. I've had a lot of time on December break to walk her outside. I enjoy it. It's peaceful going out. I kind of put in a podcast, go to a park around here, and just kind of zone out and walk my dog. And that's cool. But it's not cool when she's annoying, and she likes to tug on the leash, and she likes to walk me. It's pretty much her walking me, because she goes out in front of me and just puts her head down and just wants to just go everywhere and sniff everything. And so then I'm kind of just like skipping along, having to go at like awkward paces, and like stop, and then the leash gets circled around her feet, and then I have to fix it, and that's not cool. And it's given me a lot of patience recently, because I've walked her some far distances, and she's been really, really annoying. And I've had to even put this muzzle collar on her so she stopped tugging and things. But when I put this muzzle collar on, it's the one that like covers her entire snout, so she can't really open her mouth. She wouldn't walk. She just would lay down and try to chew off this muzzle collar, so that she was free. And that pissed me off once again. And it's just not going well. I didn't know it was this tough to raise a dog and walk a dog and teach a dog how to heel and walk properly. I guess my insight from this is, do not underestimate the ability needed and the time needed to raise a dog. I've talked to my sister a bit, and my mom knows some people that they've gotten dogs in college, and they just couldn't handle it. They take the dog to animal shelter, and get rid of it after like 2 weeks of having it, because they just realize, holy, like kind of on the same boat I am, like this thing needs a lot of work. I don't know if I have the brain power, if I have the discipline to actually sit down with this thing and teach it proper manners. And I've learned that directly. I don't even feed the dog. I didn't clean up her shit when she shit in the house. That was my mom's doing. And I guess I admire my mom for that, because she can actually handle the dog, and she can take care of the dog properly in ways that I cannot take care of the dog. And I've learned that it's a big commitment. So for everybody going out to college, everybody going in college, think twice about getting a dog. Know if you actually have the time and the commitment to raise a dog like this, and if you have the patience to take care of one, because my patience has been tested, and I don't know if I would have the patience even if I had the time to raise a dog. I guess zooming out on that is, don't have unprotected sex, because you don't want a kid. If this is how a dog is right now, and a 6-month-old dog, I can hardly handle it, and I'm getting irritated walking it, I can't imagine a kid. So don't play around. I'll drop some wisdom that everybody's grandma tells them. Don't play unprotected. you'll thank me, your grandma, you'll thank anybody for that later. I guess I skipped over one thing. I can just close out with this. I want to talk about jobs, and specifically jobs when you're a younger person. And I've recently realized this as well, just from taking my own job over the summer last year and just kind of seeing people and hear people talk about a job. I just want to say, never think that you're above a certain job, and never think that you are too high for a certain job. And I thought this when I signed up to be a host at Stone Creek up in Michigan Road. And instead of being a host, they put me as a busboy for a little bit. I did both, but I was a busboy. And to me, when I heard this at first, I was like, holy, like I am the scum of the earth. I am wiping people's dishes. I am wiping kids' snot off this freaking table. Like this sucks. This is the worst thing ever. I don't know how I'm going to get past this. I feel like I am bottom of the barrel humanity. You know, getting paid $10 an hour. This is it, guys. I'm done. This is my life. And I guess I played that victim card for a few days. I bust tables and I was just miserable. Didn't crack a smile for a little bit, and wasn't very kind to my workmates. But just kind of being there for a little bit more and more, I soon realized after looking at the kitchen and seeing some of my workmates, I realized someone needs to do this job. Like, someone needs to do this job, and someone needs to do it well. And if no one else here is going to do that, I will. I'll be the one to step up in this role and take it, since no one else wants to do it. I'll be the leader that does this bullshit and does it to the best of my ability. And that's what I did. I was only there for like 2 months, but when I was the busboy, I busted ass. And all the tables, it was a mission. I'm going to do my job as best as I can. And I had like 6-hour shifts. I'm not here trying to brag about my busing skills, please. But I would literally bust ass. I'd be sweating by the end of the night. You know, like ass sweat, armpit sweat, no joke. Because I'm just sprinting from table to table, wiping them down, putting all the busing in the busing box. And this thing would get heavy, man. I'm lifting this busing box, and there's plates stacked high, cups stacked high, and I started enjoying it because it was just such a challenge, and it sucked so bad. There were days where it was 90 degrees out. I just wanted to be outside at a pool with my boys, but I have a shift from 4 to 10 o'clock, and then 10 o'clock would turn into 10:30, which would turn into 11 o'clock, and it was a character builder, and that's what I'm thinking about now. And I'm just so glad I took that job, and I'm still kind of just wishing I could go back and take a shift and just bust us and just get some plates and get some dishes and just run around that place and get that feeling, man, because it was exhilarating. And I think the best part about that job is when I busted ass and when I did the right thing, my superiors and the people that paid me realized, okay, dude, this guy's damn good at his job. And he's not just this expendable product. Like, we can't lose this guy. So then when I put in my leave around like before the school year started going into August, they wanted me back, man. And that was the best feeling. They're like, we can't lose this guy. We have no one else that can bust the tables like him. And that just sort of feeling kind of shows that no matter what job you're in, no matter what you're doing, you can have that same attitude and you can put out like that. So then people above you realize, yeah, we can't lose this guy. And eventually with that same attitude, they'll promote you. They'll push you up because they'll listen to you. I bet if I went to them and told them, I don't want to bust tables, but I'll do this, this, and this, they would have said, okay, yeah, we would rather you do this than leave. And that's how I kind of force their cards and play it my way. I mean, I didn't do that, but that's kind of how you can work up the totem pole. You can start at that lowly job, start at busting tables, and then just work your way up. And maybe that's how the corporate world works. I don't know. I'm imagining it does. Just kind of putting out, and then your superiors see that, give you a raise, keep going up. I guess my point there was, don't think you're too low for a job. If you have nothing to do, if you're sitting on your ass all day, every day, get a job. I don't even care if it's bussing tables like that. Get the job, put out, and you will learn a lot more about yourself and about just working and putting out than you would just sitting at home. So that's kind of the end takeaway for this podcast. Just some, we'll call them fractions of small wisdom to take into 2022. And a lot of these I've just thought about the past week, and I'm like, yeah, my Stoic Sapling members, they need to hear some of these things. I'm definitely going to put timestamps in this one because I jumped around a lot, hit a lot of different topics. But this is the podcast. Last thing, read Lord of the Rings, read Dune, watch Lord of the Rings. Love both of them. Can't suggest them enough. Taught me more about life than anybody on this planet, including my parents. Kidding. So yeah, this is the Stoic Sapling podcast. I'm Ethan Woodworth. I hope to see you guys on the next one. Peace.
This podcast will be coming out every 1st and 16th of each month. You can find me at the Stoic Sapling Podcast on YouTube and Spotify. I'll catch you guys on the next one.